Hello and welcome back to the AA NBA podcast. I'm your host, Aiden Hammond.
And I'm Aditya.
And today we got some good news regarding the NBA. Aditya, you want to lead us in with that?
Right now, the NBA is targeting July 31st for a potential return date for the league. And they're sort of doing calls with the different general managers and stuff to see what an ideal playoff format would be. Because I think they aren't doing the idea of just returning the regular season. I think they're just going to go right into the playoffs.
Yeah, so this is on the fly. We were talking about the segments before, but like of the proposed playoff ideas, what are your like two favorites? Like just you can pick any one of them.
Top 16 teams and just have them in the playoffs like that. That's the only
Okay.
one I think is a good idea, actually.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I kind of liked I That's definitely the best one because it still would be 8 East, 8 West, even though I don't care about that. I'm a big proponent of if there are 12 Western Conference teams and 4 Eastern Conference teams, then I don't care. Um, but it would still be 8 and 8, which would be kind of, nice as a transition season if we were to do this in the future. But the other one that
Because
I
the thing
liked,
is, oh yeah, you can go ahead.
no, no, yeah, yeah. No,
I was
go
gonna
ahead.
say the only thing like the league has said that's stopping them from doing just 1 through 16 is the travel time because like Eastern Conference and Western Conference teams might have to travel a lot for playoff series. But if
Ooh,
the entire
actually,
thing is held in Orlando, there's no traveling.
yeah, that's true. Interesting fact, though. The Miami Heat in their first season, and maybe after that, but I know for sure their first season, they were actually a Western Conference team, and they had the all-time. I think they set the record for most miles traveled in a season.
Why are that's weird. I
It
didn't know
was
that
it was
actually.
something it was something fucky with like the how the divisions were. It's like Memphis really shouldn't be a Western Conference team, but
Yeah,
they kind of are because they're like this is Miami. It's about as far east as you can possibly go in the United States. Like the only thing worse would be putting like a team in Maine and being like, yeah, they're actually in the Pacific
or like
Conference.
making the Knicks a Western Conference team.
Yeah, it's just dumb, but I that's always an interesting fact.
Yeah, I didn't know that actually. So look at
I
that.
might have actually just dreamed that, but I'm pretty sure that's a fact. I don't have any sources on that, but I remember reading it somewhere.
Solid.
Um, yeah, so whatever, pretty smart. Oh, you know what I think it was? I think it was because they were the same year as Minnesota when they expanded, or I think
Mm-hmm.
they were the year before Minnesota became a team. And then it was like in the late 80s when there were like 3 or 4 expansion teams, so I think it just ended up being like kind of a problem
Yeah.
because there just were too many because they were expanding too quickly and blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
So what's up next?
Well, just kind of rebounding off the potential playoff stuff. There are like teams out there that feel like the NBA is giving special treatment to Zion and the Pelicans and trying to do whatever they can to make sure the Pelicans are in the playoffs for
Yeah.
like this upcoming playoff series.
So actually, I saw a really interesting. I was gonna say this and then I got trailed off. I The other playoff format I saw that was interesting was top 10 seeds play each other, and then like they play each other for the 7 and 8 seed. Or I'm sorry, the
Mm-hmm.
7
Like a
through 10
plan?
play each other. I'm gonna try to find it because I think it was on NBA Chop Shop.
Yeah, I think I
Uh,
know what you're talking about. Like a potential play-in tournament for the eighth seed.
yeah, it was like the 7 and 10 play, and then the 8 and 9 play, and then the loser. Or no, I don't know. It was something like that where like the loser of one of the games would play the winner of the other game.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was 7 and 8 play and then 9 and 10 play, and then the winner of 7 and 8 gets the 7 spot, and then I think the loser of 7 and 8 plays the winner of 8 and 9, and then whoever wins that gets in.
My only problem with that is the seven seed is so far away from the eighth seed in the West. So like
Yeah,
they kind of earned it. Like the eighth seed, I could see up for grabs because there's like 4 or 5 teams in contention for that
yeah,
spot. But the seven seed is so far away that it's kind of unfair to have them play because like any team can have a bad game, and then if they're 8 games ahead, they're a lock basically. They're a lock
Yeah.
basically, and then they get screwed over by having a bad game, even though they were 8 games ahead of the 8th seed.
Yeah, I would not have a problem if they did an 8 through 11 play-in tournament.
Yeah.
But I think a 7 through, because I think even in the East, the distance between the 7 and the 8 is like a couple games. Like it's more than one.
Yeah.
But like in the West, I know that 8 to 10 is like, I don't know, game and a half, 2 games maybe. So
Yeah, it's really close.
that's just kind of a kind of an interesting thing. And in the East, I think probably that would work a little bit better. But yeah, Dallas definitely deserves to be at least the 7th seed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that should lead us into
the next thing. Yeah.
Situation in Portland.
Damian Lillard said if the Blazers don't have a chance to make the playoffs and they're still expected to play games, he's going to sit out because it's just not worth risking any injuries if there's no possible chance of even making the playoffs for them, which makes sense.
Yeah, it's the logic that players use in the preseason. I don't ever expect a professional, like, high value all-star, Damian Lillard is sometimes on the edge of the MVP conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Damian Lillard is super important to Portland in their future. So Damian Lillard being apprehensive to play is like, I totally get it. Like, it's like,
Yeah.
I don't expect players to play in exhibition games, and that's basically what this would be.
Yeah.
These would be exhibition games for Portland.
Because if they have no chance, well, I mean, I wouldn't expect him or CJ even to play. Just it's not worth the risk.
I would respect that decision if they were more on like the 12 to 15 bubble, but they are the 10 seed right now, so it's not like they have. I think what he's saying is if we're only going to play 5 games, we're basically mathematically eliminated.
Yeah.
So I definitely, or even like 8 to 10, they're still like basically fucked.
What's the thing?
So,
honestly, if they're given a chance to make the playoffs, he's obviously going to play. But if there's no
yeah,
hope for
if
them,
they're doing
no...
I don't like. I think people were getting confused because he was like, I think people took it as if there's a play-in tournament, I will not play, which is not what he was saying. He was saying
if there's zero
if we have
chance
to play 6 meaningless games, then I'm not going to play.
Yeah.
Which I wouldn't expect. If we had the same situation last season and LeBron was ready to come back, I would not. Like, even though they were technically on the bubble, I would not expect him to come back and play 6 meaningless games. And I don't expect it for Dame either.
And like this season, Dame's kind of coming off a little bit of an injury he had. Last season, LeBron was coming off a small injury. So you don't want to, like, in a pointless game, you don't want to tweak that and potentially have to get, season-ending surgery that can affect your next season, too.
Yeah, or even, like I always think of Paul George breaking his leg in an exhibition game in these situations. Like, that fucked up his career for a little bit. Like, it fucked up his season for sure. It fucked up the Pacers for a while. Like, it can, like, injuries in exhibition games can not only fuck up a player, but can fuck up a franchise. So especially if you're a Portland fan that's going against him,
Damian Lillard
is your franchise. For you.
Yeah.
He's doing this for you. He's not doing this because he's an asshole. He's doing this because he wants to be able to play in the future. And if he, gets hurt, then he's not going to be able to provide that service for you.
Yeah.
You know what I just realized? We didn't talk about Zion, like, at all. We talked about the other players. So what do you think about that whole situation?
Well, I think it's kind of stupid if they just try to find a way to keep him in because obviously they didn't earn the spot. And we talked about this we have like an NBA group chat sort of thing. And Ryan pointed it out perfectly. Like, Zion's a competitor. He's not just going to take a handout. He probably wants to earn it himself.
Yeah, Zion, because Ryan and I were talking about that, and we were both like, Zion Williamson, I think I said something like, I don't even think Zion would want that. Like, I don't think Zion would want to be handed a playoff spot. So why are you, like, considering handing him a playoff spot?
Like,
even though
it'd be nice
that could have
to
been
see,
just a
and
rumor.
it'd be like seeing a Pelicans Bucks first round series might be kind of entertaining, but it's not. He didn't earn it.
Or Pelicans Lakers if they just do East and West again. Like, I'd love to see the passing of the torch or whatever from.
It'd be entertaining, but you kind of have to look at it with a different perspective because they didn't really earn the spot. It was just handed to them because Zion's a big name.
Yeah, it's it would be unfair for them to do
Yeah.
that. And I
Especially
don't
for the
even
other
think,
teams that didn't make the playoffs. They were close too.
like when those rumors come out, it just makes people not like Zion, and I don't think that that's what
And
Zion
it's not his
wants.
fault either, and
I know, but
because
it's
he's
like
not
when
like actively trying to make this happen.
I know it's like when Zion was getting constant coverage, like in college, and people just started hating him because they were tired of seeing him. But it wasn't
Yeah,
his fault. He was just good at basketball.
like the
Like this is the same
Zion
sort of
can,
thing. Yeah, this is the same sort of thing. Like the NBA is just gonna make people not like him if they
yeah,
try to hand him a playoff spot, which
basically.
they don't want because he's gonna be like LeBron, Giannis level superstar.
hmm
Um, so what do we got next?
Next, the Celtics are most likely going to offer Jason Tatum a max contract, which I think is a good idea.
Why would they not do that? They offered
Um,
Jalen Brown a max contract, so I would
yeah.
be appalled if they didn't give one to Jason Tatum.
The only problem
And
now
that's
is
not a diss on
Kemba's
Jalen
on a big
Brown.
contract. Gordon Hayward still got his contract. Jalen Brown's got a contract. Jason Tatum's now getting his contract. Their salary situation is not good. And obviously
I
it's
want to
fine because they're all
yeah.
really good players. And Jason
Mm,
Tatum, Jalen Brown are only going to get better. But
I don't know if that Gordon Hayward contract is going to be very good for them. I think he's only got a year or two left
at the
on
time
that.
it was
Does
good,
he have
but
a year
obviously
left?
because of injuries. I'm not sure. I can
Wasn't
look
it
that
like a
up real
4-year
quick.
deal, maybe?
I can look that up real quick.
Um, yeah, and that's
You
not
just
a
keep
that's.
talking.
I realize that came out wrong because that sounds like a diss on Jalen Brown. It is not a diss on Jalen Brown. Jalen Brown is a very good basketball player, but Jalen Brown was also not an All-Star in his third year, and
Yeah.
Jason Tatum was. Like Jason Tatum at this point is farther along than Jalen Brown was at this point in his career.
All right, so I got the
Um,
contract, the
and
Celtics
they
payroll
gave
pulled
Jalen
up.
Brown a max. So
Yeah, I got so
okay,
Kemba's contract is huge. I didn't even realize that. In 2021-22 he's making 36 million. So
yeah,
Gordon
he got
Hayward
a
this
max.
year was the last year of his contract, but he has a player option for next season, which he's probably going to accept for 34 million.
It would be stupid if he doesn't take that.
Yeah,
Nobody else is giving him 34 million.
exactly. So yeah, Kemba's making next season. Kemba's making 34 million. Gordon Hayward is. Marcus Smart's making 13 million. JT's making 10 mil. Jalen Brown's making 23 mil, and then the rest is sort of mid-level exceptions and lower. Their bench is very cheap.
Honestly, that kind of that a lot of they should give him that contract because a lot of stuff will clear up when Gordon Hayward
Yeah,
when that contract is up. Like paying your three best players, like what would that be, like 60% of your salary cap is not an uncommon thing.
and
Um,
I'm gonna be
like
honest.
paying Jalen Brown, Kemba, Jason Tatum 60% is not
Well, that's their
like
core,
an unheard
so
of
it
thing.
makes sense.
Yeah.
When Jason Tatum first came into the league and everyone was like, he's gonna be the next like superstar, I like didn't buy into the hype. I was kind of like, he'll be good, but nothing special. And then like now I kind of like changed my mind. Actually, I love Jason Tatum's game.
Yeah, it's Jason Tatum's like he's kind of like if Paul Pierce and Kobe Bryant kind of had a baby or something.
Mm-hmm.
He's just a really good he's a good basketball player, and
Yeah.
hopefully he won't be obnoxious as Paul Pierce in 20 years. But yeah, they should absolutely give him that contract, and especially that Marcus Smart deal is actually really good for them. They were also smart not to pay Terry Rozier what he got.
That would that's.
From
I think
the
everyone can
Hornets.
agree that's a terrible contract.
Yeah, that's Michael Jordan's second worst decision.
Second, I don't know. That's a bit high.
I would say that's probably below retiring in the middle of his prime to play a sport that he was not good at.
You got to do that Nicholas Batum contract, the Bismack Biyombo contract.
Fuck, dude, he's such a shitty owner. But let's not talk about how bad Michael Jordan is at his job right now.
Yeah. Well, we can talk about other people who are bad at their jobs. The New York Knicks are looking to get Tom Thibodeau to coach their franchise. And I made this
Okay,
joke in the group chat
yeah.
that the Knicks are going to have a mean core of Tom Thibodeau, Chris Paul, and Mitchell Robinson to like lead them into the future.
I don't think they're gonna get Chris Paul.
They're trying to trade for him. They're trying to trade for.
They're trying to trade for it. How much does he have left on his contract? Is next year the last year or this year?
I think it's next year.
This would have been he signed a 4-year, and this would have been the 3rd year of it, right, with Houston?
Yeah, I think he has one more year.
Yeah, I want to see him stay in Oklahoma City or go to the.
Yeah, so he's got
Or
his
go to the
contract
Lakers,
going
really.
through
I wanna see him play with
2020-21,
LeBron.
and then he has a player option in 21-22 for
Yeah.
44 mil.
Yeah,
But
which he would be stupid not to take.
It's a classic Knicks thing to do to trade for an old, out of his prime point guard that probably won't help him win many games. Because Chris Paul,
I don't know if
he's
Chris Paul's
good.
out of his prime
He
yet.
okay.
He was an all-star.
He's a
He
good
was
player,
great.
but if you put him on the Knicks with no weapon, like he's
Yeah,
playing
yeah.
well because he's got players like Shea who put up basically 20 this season. You know, if you put him with Julius Randle and Taj Gibson, you're not really doing him any favors.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, can we talk about how this is the most Knicks move of all time?
To get Tibbs.
Is to get fucking Tom Thibodeau, one of the worst, most hated coaches of the last decade.
Yeah.
Every player he has hates his guts because he's bad. He's also most notable for overworking. He's basically most notable is, even though I kind of think this is bullshit, it's still like fair because like he is most known for running Derrick Rose into the ground.
Yeah.
Like that's his claim to fame right now.
That and wasn't he the coach when the Timberwolves made the playoffs, or was Ryan Saunders the coach?
No, he was the coach. He got fired because of the Jimmy Butler situation last year. I mean, basically.
Yeah.
What do we got next?
That's all the news actually for now.
All right. So that means that we are going into. Okay, so you can lead this segment.
All right. So basically, Noah had the idea to have us sort of start ranking like the players. So like today we're doing ranking the top 15 point guards in the league in our opinion, and then next week we'll do shooting guards, and that week after that small forwards, and so on until we're done. Which I thought would be fun, especially because if the regular season doesn't continue, which is looking like it's not going to, most of the time your starting point guard rankings don't change an insane amount in the playoffs. Most of it's based on regular season, so it's like a good idea to do it now.
Yeah, so we're gonna be doing this every week, right? When we're just gonna go from the 1 to the 5.
Oh, I was going. Yeah,
correct?
Basically, yeah.
Or are we just starting off with point guards and seeing how it does?
Well, we can do all 5. I thought you meant when you said 1 through 5, I thought you meant we're starting with like number 1 on our list.
No. I meant like the position, point guard, shooting guard.
Yeah.
So let's start at.
Oh, and
I got
quick
some
disclaimer. Hold on. All these positions are based on Basketball Reference, and we're not going through injuries. It's only for last season. So like Steph Curry and Kyrie Irving aren't the starting point guards because they didn't play enough games.
Yeah. I think we should go like you have to have played like 40 or more games.
And this is all based on Basketball Reference too.
It's also so LeBron and Luka and Ben Simmons. Does he count as a point guard this year? Yeah. Mm-hmm. LeBron, Luka, and Ben Simmons are all point guards. Nikola Jokic is not because he's still listed as a center. So, honorable mentions. Let's start off with that.
I didn't do any honorable mentions. I just went 15-1.
Okay. I have 4 honorable mentions. So, one of my honorable mentions. These are in no specific order. So, Mike Conley, he really started off badly, but he's picked it up. He's averaging about 14 and 5.
He picked it up though once he got benched. So, like his starting role wasn't very good.
Yeah. So that's why he is not in the top 15. The point guard is one of the deepest positions in the league this year. I can guarantee that the center list is not going to be as interesting as this one. So I got Mike Conley. I also have Devontae Graham, who is a most improved player candidate. He's really good, but he's also on a really bad team, so I couldn't
Yeah.
put him in my top 15. And there were a couple players who just barely edged him out. My 13 to 15 was pretty tight. Um, and then I got Eric Bledsoe, who's the starting point guard for the Bucks. He's also really good. There were a couple guys that I had ahead of him, and then Lonzo Ball, who's also progressing. He's averaging about 12 and 7, which is really good. He's one of the best pure passers in the league.
And a
But
great
there were
defender.
just and a great defender. There were just a couple guys that I had to put above him. But
Yeah.
all of those guys at some point were in contention for, a 15 to even 10 spot before
Yeah.
I was able to think of other people.
I also left all those guys out of my list. I felt a little bad about leaving Eric Bledsoe out because he was like the toughest decision for me. But at the
Yep,
end of
yep, yeah.
I
He was
I
for
did
me
have
too.
to leave him
Actually,
out.
Devonte Graham too, kind of
Yeah.
fucked me up. But
All right. So you want me to go first?
yeah. So we're starting off at we're doing our top 15.
Yeah, we're doing
So
50. We thought
number
doing all 30 would
15
be kind of annoying.
It would be tedious, but top 10 was not enough.
Yeah. All right. So for number 15, I got Malcolm Brogdon.
No fucking way.
You also?
Yeah.
Shit, dude, we're gonna have like the exact same list, and it's gonna be really boring.
No, I think it's gonna be different because I think my number 14 is going to be controversial, and if it's
Okay.
not, then motherfucker.
Okay, so because he had a really good season with the Pacers, he did have a
Mhm.
few lingering injuries, like with his back and everything, but going from last season basically being an efficient spot up shooter to running the offense, and like obviously
Yeah.
the Pacers play a really well-rounded game of basketball, but he was a big focal point of that offense. Him and TJ Warren really, and obviously Sabonis was an all-star, but
Yeah.
I think early on before, because Brogdon did hit a little bit of a slump with some of his injuries, and then his shooting percentages dipped a little bit. But early
Yeah.
before that, I had him as a possible most improved player and a possible all-star. So I just thought 15 would be a pretty good place to have him.
Yeah, I agree. There were some. I thought that I was gonna. This was kind of my homer pick because he was really tight with Eric Bledsoe
Yeah,
for
same.
me. But because of his like free throw efficiency, like Malcolm Brogdon is one of the only players that I've ever seen that's an automatic free throw. That's like played for the Pacers. Because like the Pacers, since I started watching basketball, have not had like a near automatic free throw shooter like Malcolm Brogdon.
Yeah, and he's one of
Um,
like obviously when he has the ball a little more, it's harder, but he's one of the more efficient shooters in the league, which is good.
yeah, he's whenever Malcolm Brogdon takes a three, I'm usually pretty confident in that shot.
Yeah,
Um, there aren't a lot of shots that he takes where I'm like, what are you doing, dude? Because he really only takes like, 8 to 12 shots a game when he plays.
hmm
He's also set the offense up. The offense runs better with him than without him, which is a shame because he's been hurt. I think he missed about 16 games this year, 15, 16-ish, somewhere in that range.
yeah, he's had a
Which
few
is the other
lingering
reason
injuries.
why he's so low for me. If he had played a little more, he'd probably be a lot higher. Because when healthy, I think he's better than a couple of these guys I have ahead of him. But because of those injuries, that's why I got him at number 15.
Yeah. All right, you want to do 14?
Sure. Okay, so at number 14, I have Spencer Dinwiddie.
Ooh, I had a tight 13 through 4. I have Dinwiddie at 13, but he was
Okay.
tight with 14, but you can go with your
Okay. All right, so I've got Spencer Dinwiddie here because, first of all, he was kind of hoisted into the starting point guard category because he is usually a shooting guard or the sixth man on that team. But he's behind Kyrie Irving. If they're both playing point guard, he's definitely not up there with them. But because he's played point guard. He's started at point guard every game that Kyrie's been out. And he's pretty much the main reason why that team is still in the playoff picture.
Yeah, he's
Like,
really
I don't
good.
think there's
He had a good
really
season.
any other way to put that. He was like, there were rumors that he might be an all-star replacement if somebody got hurt. Like, he's putting up 20 and 6, which is really good for like a guy who was playing sixth man for a good portion of the year. But he is a starting point guard right now. He's really great. Um, he is leading the Nets to the playoffs,
Yeah.
and so that's what I got. So who do you have at 14?
At 14, I actually had Ja Morant. Um,
Ooh,
I this was tough. Basically, 11 through 14 was really close for me. It was kind of hard to decide, but I just had Ja here because, like, obviously he's leading the Grizzlies to a playoff spot, which is crazy in the West. But the 8th seed is kind of far off from everyone else, and while he's having a pretty good season, obviously there's a lot of room for him to improve. So I just kind of thought keeping him at 14 for now is probably a good spot.
I'm telling you right now, this is going to be the biggest discrepancy in our picks because I have him in a much different spot.
Yeah, I've like again 11 through 14 for me could really go anywhere.
Yeah,
It was
yeah, I
tough for
understand what
me.
you're saying. Yeah. All
And
right.
at 13 I
Yeah.
had Spencer Dinwiddie for just about every reason you listed.
Okay. It's set at 13. I actually have Jamal Murray. Um, so this is pretty low for Jamal Murray, but Jamal Murray is a point guard that doesn't really run his offense, right? Like he
Yeah.
doesn't really have the roles that a typical point guard does. Jamal Murray is more of he's relied more of as a scorer than a passer, and usually most like great point guards, like he's averaging 19 and 5,
Mhm.
which are pretty decent point guard numbers, but they're not like you know they don't jump off the like especially the assists really just don't jump off the page
Yeah, I
for a
think
point guard.
I mean he's listed technically as a point guard, but he's really just
He's really a
a
shooting guard,
sidekick for
and
Jokic.
especially in that offense, he
Yeah.
basically does whatever Jokic can't on offense.
Mhm.
Um, which is really, shoot a lot of threes and get around screens quickly. He's also a 90% free throw shooter, so that's why he wasn't lower. Um, so that's pretty crazy. He's 45, 35, 90, which is uh, he's a very good shooter. He's got, but again, he is kind of the sidekick for Jokic. He's not really a typical point guard, and the assist numbers just don't really do it for me quite as much as some of the other point guards that I have on this list,
Mhm.
higher than him.
That's fair.
So
All right.
are we gonna do like a snake sort of thing where
Yeah,
I do
that's
two
fine.
and then you do two? Okay. So then at number 12, this one might be a little controversial too. I actually have D'Angelo Russell at number 12, and here's why. D'Angelo Russell's numbers are spectacular. D'Angelo Russell, let me pull up his basketball reference because I saw it earlier, but I want to make sure I get everything right. Yeah, D'Angelo Russell is putting up 23 points and 6 assists, which is for a player on pretty much any other team besides the worst team in the league. Those are all-star numbers, but he is on the worst team in the he was on the worst team in the league for the majority of the season, and that really can't be ignored.
Yeah.
He was definitely getting better numbers. He's still good, and he will re-enter the top 10 conversation next year when he plays a full year with Cat. And I still think he's got all star in him. I just
This season
you
just
know
wasn't it
his
for
team
him.
was so bad.
Yeah.
Like there are like his team was just so bad. It was so
I
bad.
think to be fair, like he didn't have anyone else really to play with,
He
but
didn't. Yeah.
yeah, I can see where you're coming from. I also had him at 12. His numbers are obviously there, but the winning wasn't. You know,
Yeah.
they were like literally the worst team in the league. So it's kind of tough to have him ranked much higher than that. He's still a good player, and obviously he'll have a good season with Cat. But this past season was not great for him. Still like good
Yeah.
because he's number 12, but not as good as he can be with actual
Yeah.
weapons around him.
Mhm. And it also really depends on who they take in the draft because he does work well with depending on shooters. If he has good shooters around him, those assist numbers go up. That
Yeah,
was evidenced last year by his performance with Joe Harris. Like he was like they were really good on the floor together.
yeah.
Um, so yeah.
So I'll do number 11 then. I
Yeah.
had De'Aaron Fox at number 11. And the reason I had him here, I was debating putting him at maybe 10, but the Kings started off the season so bad. Like they picked it up post All-Star break, but it's kind of hard to ignore that at the beginning of the season he just really wasn't playing up to standard for himself. So I just kind of had to lower him a little bit. And obviously we've talked about
Yeah.
this on the podcast before. Like Luke Walton doesn't help. They were playing with like the third slowest pace in the league when you have arguably the fastest player in the league. So the coaching didn't help much, but that doesn't ignore the fact that he started off the season pretty poorly.
Yeah, De'Aaron Fox is also my 11.
Solid. All
Um,
right.
so going into this season, so we wrote out a bunch of, I know we've talked about this, but we wrote out a bunch of hot takes that we were
Mm-hmm.
gonna like talk about at the end of the season. Um, so, um, he, so I said that he was gonna be. This was like one of my ones that I was like, this is probably bullshit, but I want to put it out there just in case. I said that I thought that he might be an all-star starter this year, which looking back on that was ridiculous to say. But he's really picked it up. He's been playing more like an all-star since like December or January, but those first couple months, dude,
Yeah, they were bad.
he was not great. He was not efficient. He was not scoring well. He wasn't passing well. He wasn't doing anything well. The team sucked. So it's kind of like I can't put him in the top 10. It's like the argument that people use for, LeBron not getting MVP this year or, Trae Young not getting Rookie of the Year. It's like I can't give it to him because he's been playing really well for only half the year.
Mm-hmm.
If he had been playing this well all year, that would be better.
Yeah.
Like I would agree with that more. So my turn now, right?
Yep.
All right, number 10. This is the controversial one. This is where I put Ja Morant because Ja Morant is the Memphis Grizzlies this year, and they are a playoff team. That
Mm-hmm.
can't be ignored.
Yeah.
They are a playoff team. They are the 8th seed. And Ja Morant also, his intangibles on the court. He's one of my favorite players to watch because of his intangibles, really, because his numbers, 17 and 7, really good.
Yeah.
But also his decision making on like when to, make the right pass. We've talked about this before, but especially that Jay Crowder pass. He's also shooting 50 and 36. His free throw numbers aren't great, 77. But that 50% from the field is really important for him in the future to maintain. And, they're a playoff team, which is my main reason.
One thing that's, I think, some really impressive about Ja Morant's game is that usually for, like, especially just point guards in general, like, your first, 2 or 3 seasons, you're sort of adjusting to the pace of the league, to, like, defense in the league, and it's like, for point guards, it's probably the hardest adjustment to make, but you would think he's been in the league for a few years with the way he was playing. Just, I mean, coming right out of the gate, like, he was fun, he was exciting, he was making good decisions, and again, obviously, he still has room to work, but he had a really great season.
He was getting decent all-star buzz as a first-year point guard. Like that just doesn't really happen that much. Like he is a very good basketball player. I'm excited to see what Memphis does, how Memphis surrounds him talent-wise, because they've done a pretty good job of building kind of that core.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be interesting to see how they can continue that. So that was probably my most controversial one because, I don't think that a lot of people would have him in the top 10, but I got him at 10.
At number 10, I have Jamal Murray, actually.
Okay.
The reason is I know,
All right.
like, as a point guard, his assist numbers don't necessarily stand out, but that's not really his role, so I didn't really hold that as much against him as you probably did. He's a great second option for Jokic, who really runs that offense. And since he's really only needed to score it, he does that really well. And, I felt like again, 10 through 14, or more so 11 through 14 was pretty interchangeable because I just thought Jamal Murray has, if you put someone I had in 11 through 14 on the Nuggets, they might be a little different, just because his role isn't really to play make. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he would be. I don't think. I think it's fair to say that he would probably be an all-star on one of, like, if he swapped spaces with Spencer Dinwiddie, he would probably be just as good, if not better, than Spencer Dinwiddie is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is that all you got for number 10?
We mostly talked about Jamal Murray already, so.
Yeah. So number 9, this one was hard because he was actually a guy that I kind of thought of after I had made my list. But I think it's okay to put him here. I have Kyle Lowry at number 9.
God damn it. I also have Kyle Lowry at number 9.
Okay, so I'll go first, and whatever I don't get, you can can talk about after. So Kyle Lowry, 20-8 basically, 19.7 and 7.7, whatever. 20-8. He is an all-star this year. He is super important to the Raptors. He's a veteran presence. He's 33. He's been an all-star 6 straight years, which is kind of weird that he started at 28 as an all-star and is still an all-star consistently. I think it's safe to say that he got the all-star nod kind of as a you're on a really good team. He's more of a you're on a really good team all-star and maybe not you are an all-star. Like, you know how there are some players where, like, if their team was like the 4 or the 5 seed, they probably wouldn't be an all-star, but because they're like a really high seed, they are. So that's kind of, I think, kind of where he stands. But the numbers can't be ignored. 20-8. He's on a team that's already hit 50 wins, I believe. Let me check. Let me fact check that just so that
they are the 2nd seed in the East, I believe, because he goes Bucks, Raptors, Celtics for the top 3.
Yeah, regardless, they are close to 50 wins. So he's really important to them. They're 46-18, so they're close.
Yeah. If the full season played out, they'd probably be close to like 55
60.
wins.
Yeah, 55 or 60 in that range. So that's why I got him there. He's an all-star nonetheless, though. So, I mean, I can't criticize him for that.
Yeah. Another thing I had for Kyle Lowry that sort of kept him around this range for me was the Raptors coming into the season. Their expectations weren't very high because Kawhi left, and obviously he was very important to them. But Pascal Siakam made a jump, but Kyle Lowry's leadership can't be ignored for that team. I don't think they would be the number 2 seed without him there. Obviously, he's putting up great numbers. He was an all-star.
That's a lot of why.
But the locker room presence and on-court leadership, like, it really makes a difference for a team like that. That just came off a championship.
Yeah. So who you got at number 9? Did you already do number 9?
My number 9 was Kyle Lowry. We both had.
Okay. Oh, wait. Okay, so who you got at number 8?
My number 8 is Trae Young. The reason I have him, I was thinking about putting him a little higher, but the reason I kept him low was mainly because, one, the team doesn't win many games.
Sorry, I accidentally exited out of my Instagram app, so, but I'm still live, so I just, can you just say what you were saying?
Yeah, my number 8 is Trae Young.
Oh, fucking hell.
Okay, guys, we didn't run these lists past each other in advance. We
talked about our number 1 player, and that's it. And oh my god, it's almost identical. Are you fucking kidding me?
The reason I have Trae Young here is because obviously he's putting up great numbers, but the team doesn't win any games, and he's like the worst defender in the league. So, you know, it's hard to ignore the numbers he's putting up offensively, but when you look at all his weaknesses, it's kind of hard to put him higher.
And also how shitty his team is. His
team is very bad.
Yeah, that's basically why I have him there. He's putting up. He was as high as number 5 or 6, I think, and then I was like, wait a second, I gotta switch this around because he is just not good enough of a defender. He's not good enough of a leader yet, and I don't blame him for that. He's 21, but He's just not great at. His team just sucks. His team
Yeah,
sucks, and that's really the main reason why he's so low.
I
If
love
if
Trae
his
Young.
team
Like
was
he's
like the
entertaining.
5 or the 6 seed, what?
I said I love Trae Young. Like he's entertaining, but I was actually considering putting him lower. Like I had Kyle
Yeah, I
Lowry
was
above him
not
for a
putting
little
him.
bit.
Yeah, I had to. There were a couple players that I had to go ahead and be like, "Yep, you're a little better because of your defense and your team."
Yeah.
But yeah, Trae Young. He was also an All-Star starter this year, so that's why I believe I had him so high to begin with. But his team's just so fucking ass, dude. They're so bad.
Yeah.
But he's special. He's gonna be an MVP candidate in the next couple of years. Don't worry about Trae Young because he's gonna be fine.
He'll be fine. Yeah.
And if he's not fine, then he'll leave the Hawks. I don't think he'll hesitate to leave Atlanta.
Yeah.
And I don't think anybody would blame him if they continue to suck and he left. So number 7. Is this where I come in?
Yeah.
All right. Number 7. I have Russell Westbrook.
Ooh.
I have very complicated feelings about Russell Westbrook because on the one hand, the thing that I respect most in players usually is loyalty. I really respect you if you're willing to stay with a team and help them win. He's also an all-star. He was basically traded as a favor to him. I think if he had more of a say in it, he probably would still be in Oklahoma City this year. But they were kind of like, we know that you are not going to say that you don't want to be here, so we're just going to trade you. Good luck. This season, he's putting up 28 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists. He averaged a triple-double for 3 straight seasons. That can't be ignored. He is the deserving 2016-17 MVP. A lot of people like to diss on his 2016-17 MVP. I disagree. I think that's super lame to do because he was hoisted into he immediately had to be the main player on that team that he was not used to. So this is definitely a respect thing, but it can't be ignored that his defense is a little lacking. It's not bad, but it's not as good as a player that I have. The player that I have at 6. 6 and 7 were between these two guys. So I think you will know who 6 is just by saying that. But I gotta put him at 7 because he's not the main player on his team. He definitely takes the backseat to James Harden on the offense.
Right.
He's not super great. Like he's not bad one-on-one defensively with other good point guards, but he's not like the first point guard I would pick to choose or that I would pick to guard other point guards. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's why I've got him there. He was an all-star this year. He's excellent, but I did have to put him at 7.
I think Russ, once he figured out that, hey, I probably shouldn't shoot threes because I can't make them to save my life, he became like one of the most dominant forces in the league.
This year?
Yeah. Because as soon as he stopped shooting threes, he was putting up like 30, 35 point per game averages. Like he was nuts.
Yeah, the other problem is that just fucks me up is his shooting splits are really good for him for like 47, 77, and then you see that 3-point percentage and it's like, oh, he's shooting sub 30% for like the 3rd or 4th straight year, I believe now.
Yeah.
So that is not that's a problem, but I agree, and I do think that he is the 3rd straight year sub 30% from 3. But yeah, I agree. But he was shooting threes for a good portion of this season. So if he was 10 games in and was like, I'm just gonna stop shooting, he'd probably be number 5 or number 6. But really, it's the 3-point shooting that takes me out of it. That takes him out of number 6 or 5.
For me, my number 7 was Ben Simmons.
Okay.
He is really good at basketball. He's a good defender. He can make well. He can do everything but shoot threes. But the problem is with that Sixers team, they need him to at least be willing to attempt them, and he doesn't. And it's really actually turning into a hindrance for that Sixers team because they have no spacing. And he's obviously a good player, but I can't have him higher just for the fact that his play style is causing his team to lose more games. When him and Joel Embiid are on the court together, the team loses. When he's on the court without Embiid, he's an all-star. Well, he's an all-star anyway. He's like if he was on the court without Joel Embiid, he'd probably be in my top 5.
Yeah,
But
no shit.
when they're on
really,
the
they're
court
a bad
together,
duo.
when they're on the court together, they just don't win. So that's why I have him at number 7.
Yeah. So I have Ben Simmons at number 6 because of his defense and because he's kind of the main. Like, I don't know. Flick. You know, I am really he and Russell Westbrook are really kind of just tied for me. I think I'm just gonna have to say they're both around. Like, they're definitely on the same tier for me for sure. Because the more you talk about that, the more his spacing is an issue. Like, they're a big team, and yeah, his spacing is gonna get him shut down like it got Giannis shut down last year. His inability to
the Sixers or the Heat exposed him with a zone. You know, it was bad. They just showed that in the playoffs when the game slows down and you're like coaches have specific game plans for you because you're playing a 7-game series, it's easy to shut this team down just because of his inability to even attempt threes.
Yeah. And that is the difference between he and Russell Westbrook with shooting, really, is that Russell Westbrook will at least attempt them.
Sometimes he attempts them a little too much, but...
Yeah. It's like if we got a bad shooter that was somewhere in the middle of them, attempts-wise, then that would be
good.
a really good basketball player. Sorry, got the hiccups.
So that was my number 7.
Yeah, so I've got him 6. Basically, for the same reasons. I had to put him above Russell Westbrook just because of that. I mean, really, that defense. He's a Defensive Player of the Year candidate, and, you know, the shooting, and, you know, I hate Ben Simmons. I don't like Ben Simmons at all.
Yeah, he's annoying.
He's one of my least favorite players in the league, and that's, you know, that is a diss on Ben Simmons. I don't like Ben Simmons. Fuck you, Ben Simmons.
Well, okay.
You kick my team's ass every time we play. But anyway, regardless, I had to respect him because of that.
Yeah,
fucking
he's
defense.
a good player.
That defense is bonkers. It's bananas, and the playmaking for a 7-foot-tall player.
Yeah,
crazy.
He's a good player. He just has some very easily exploitable flaws. My number 6 is actually Kemba Walker.
Okay.
He's a really good player, but when you look at how stacked that Celtics starting 5 is, his numbers are gonna be down, and it's not his fault. It's like he's the type of player that he's willing to take a lesser role if it means you win more games, right? That's just kind of the player he is, I think. But his numbers are down, or maybe they're not down, but he's averaging I think 22 or 23 points per game. I don't have the exact.
He's not I get what you're saying. He's not getting the ball. He's not. Yeah. His usage rate is for sure gone down.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying. He's still efficient. He's still the same player. He's just not getting the same sort of touches that he was on the Hornets.
And obviously his defense isn't ideal, but
but he's
put
also
that aside.
6'1".
Yeah, you can sort of put that to the side when you're talking about that offensive productivity. And with the Celtics system, Brad Stevens is good at hiding bad defense. He showed that with Isaiah Thomas. So
no shit.
I felt like number 6 was fair for him just because his numbers are probably a little down. His usage rate is down, but he's still we know who he is. We know how good Kemba Walker is.
Brad Stevens also has a top 3 defensive guard in the league in Marcus Smart. So which helps to cover up Kemba's defensive flaws because Marcus Smart's really good off-ball defense too. If Kemba lets his man go by, Marcus Smart could pick him up. Number 6, I had Ben Simmons. We already kind of talked about this anyway, so I'm just gonna kind of gloss by it and go to my number 5, who is Kemba Walker.
Ooh.
So I had Kemba 5 because of basically the same reasons. Kemba Walker has never been on a good team in his career until this year, and that was really it was the main criticism of him is that sure he's a really good basketball player, sure he plays like an all-star, sure he puts up all these good numbers, but can he win? And he can fucking win, bro. Cardiac Kemba.
And he's a really fun player to watch.
Like I didn't really like I still don't really like the Celtics because their fans suck. But like I would not be super mad if the Celtics were hit
The
the
thing
Eastern
is, I
Conference
don't
Finals this
like
year.
Celtics fans, but I like a lot of the players on the
I like a
Celtics.
lot of their players. It
Yeah.
sucks. I want to hate the Celtics. Like I hated them last year
Like,
because
I like
Kyrie was such a
Kemba.
dick.
I like
But
Jalen Brown, Jason Tatum. I
yeah,
like Enes Kanter. Like,
they're all
it's
great guys.
Marcus Smart. Yeah.
Jalen Brown's great. They're all great guys. But besides that, like Kemba Walker, immediately they started off what like 10-0, 10-1. Like they were the best team in the East for a hot minute at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
So and they were led by him. He was going off.
Hmm.
He was he's just he's really good.
Yeah.
He is a leader. Like Kemba Walker is finally in a position where he has a good team behind him. He's 29. This is the first time in his career where he's had a good team behind him. He's made 4 straight All-Star games. Kemba Walker is putting up, yeah, his points. He took a 4-point dip,
But that's
but
expected.
his assist numbers also went down. But it's to be expected. It's to be expected with a player like
He's also
a
playing
player
with two
in
other
Kemba's
all-star
position.
caliber players now.
Yeah. So of course his numbers are going to go down, but his team is crazy.
Hmm.
His team is one of the teams that I think could compete with the Bucks in the East. So that's why he is up here, and the main reason is because of him. His contributions are making that team really good.
Yeah.
But I couldn't put him in the top 4 because his defense is really lacking.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
My number 5 is Russell Westbrook for the same reasons we talked about. He's
Okay.
obviously a great player, but he had a few issues gelling with James Harden at the beginning of the season. The reason I have him so high is because he's obviously like a really great player, and once he figured out that like, hey, I should stop shooting threes, he played like the best point guard in the league.
Yeah, and that's really like I definitely have a soft spot for Russell Westbrook because
He's a likable
just
dude.
that 26. Yeah, he's a likable dude. He's a nice guy. Like he's not a nice guy. He's an asshole. But like he's a his asshole behavior is more endearing than some other players' asshole behaviors. Like he's got he posts pictures with his kids or whatever. Like he's a sweet dude, but
Hmm.
not sweet to reporters though. But I don't want my Russell Westbrook kind of bias to get in the way. But I think I went a little too far in the other direction with that. And I also, the NBA hasn't been on for a while. I kind of forgot that he started about his stretch after he just stopped shooting threes. That he was insane.
Yeah.
Um, so I think if we redid this list, he would be higher than 7. But yeah, I definitely I can't point out any flaws in your putting him at 5 because he really is he fluctuates a lot for me with where he is on. Sometimes he's 2 on my point guard ranking, and sometimes he's 8. So
Yeah.
that's why he's 7. So
Um. So
are you doing your number 4, or do I do
yeah,
my number 4 now?
I think we're gonna be close to similar for the rest of this. Maybe. I know our number ones are different, but my number
I
4.
think we're gonna have the same 4 players,
Yeah.
but I don't know what the order
My
is.
number 4 is Chris Paul.
Ooh, okay.
Because the Thunder exceeded expectations, and he's basically the main reason for that. He's like, I, I'm. It's tough because I wanted to put him a little higher, but when
He's
you
your
look
boy,
at
of course you do.
yeah, but when I look at like Shea put up 19, Dennis Schroeder averaged close to 20 off the bench too. They had a lot of great scorers, and he's like one of the best pure playmakers the league has ever seen. So he's able to fill his role great of just distributing the ball, putting the ball on the floor, and he still scores at a pretty high volume for a 34-year-old, 33,
Yeah.
34, whatever he's at right now.
He's also 6 feet tall and
Yeah.
doesn't weigh very much.
And he, again, the biggest reason for having him up here is because the Thunder just exceeded so many expectations.
Yeah. So my number 4. So we do have a different number 4. So I have Damian Lillard at my number 4.
Mm.
So this is hard for me because I really like Damian Lillard too, but his team is really bad, and they don't have a reason to be really bad this year. They have a reason to be not as good as they were last year because they had Yusuf Nurkic for a significant portion of the season. But that is not an excuse to be out of the playoff picture in March. Like it's they were pretty far out of it by the time they hit March. And it's not because he didn't step up. He stepped up, but his version of stepping up just wasn't quite enough.
His version of stepping up was dropping 55 a game. What do you mean?
I know, and their team still lost. Like he was still losing when he was putting up 55. So I don't know what else he can do, but there's a certain wall that you hit when when I hit when I'm discussing these players, like even if you're doing the absolute most you can for your team, which he is, if your team still sucks and they're still really bad and out of the playoff picture, it's just hard for me to there are just other players that I think it's not that he's bad, it's just that there are three other players that I think their teams are better and that I think are just a little bit better as point guards. I don't know. He was three for most of my list, and then I changed my mind last minute. Um, so yeah,
All right.
I don't know. He's an all-star. He is an MVP candidate when his team's good, but his team just sucks. They're so bad. There's a 10 seed. They can't. I don't know. I don't know. All right, and then at number 3, I have Chris Paul. So the main reason that I have Chris Paul at number 3 is the Thunder record. They are what, the 5 seed? Yeah,
I
they're the
think
5.
so,
Yeah,
yeah.
they're the 5 seed. Yeah, because we were talking about they will beat the Jazz if they play the Jazz.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any doubt in my mind that they will wipe the floor with the Jazz if they play in the first round of the playoffs. Chris Paul, he's just, the numbers don't really drop off the page, 18-7 as a point guard, but you got to look at his team's record. And Chris Paul is, the best pure passer I've ever seen, that I've ever gotten to watch play. He's the best passer. Um, he's kind of unfairly defined by his team's success in the playoffs, which, at points has not really been as much his fault, especially in some of those Clippers seasons. Um, but it's definitely notable. But I have him at 3 because of how good the Thunder are and how good they were supposed to be. They basically took a 7 seed jump in from what they were supposed to be and what they are.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I have him this high. I hope Chris Paul's able to win a championship at some point. I would be cool with him going to the Lakers if they wanted to trade or do something.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just want him to get a ring. I want him to at least play in a finals as a main player. I don't really see. He doesn't really seem like the type. I think he's the type of guy to retire at like 38 or 39. I don't see him playing into his 40s just to get a ring.
Yeah. I don't think he'd want to just ride a bench to get a ring.
Yeah, I don't think he would either. I don't think he's. There's some guys that do like doing that. Like Vince Carter.
Well, he doesn't ride the bench to get a ring. Like he could have
just
signed
rides
with
the
the
bench to
Warriors.
play.
Yeah, and to provide leadership.
To play sometimes, yeah, and provide leadership. But I put him here because of the shitty team, or that's supposed to be shitty. That's really good. So yeah, that's why I got him here. Yeah.
My number 3 is Luka Doncic. I have him at 3 because the Mavericks are the 7th seed, and he's putting up great numbers, obviously, but I don't know. When I think of the Mavericks, obviously Luka Doncic is doing really well, but Kristaps stepped up sort of later in the season. When he went out, I think they beat the Lakers or something, maybe. I don't remember. Maybe I'm thinking of a different game. But obviously super important to his team, but I don't know. When I look at the 2 players I have above him, I can't think of a reason I'd put him above them. So that's about the only reason I have, actually, because he's obviously like a really good player. so I can't say
Yeah.
anything bad about him because his game is just so good.
All right, so now you're number 2.
My number 2 is Dame. I know his team
Okay.
isn't the best, but you gotta Yusuf Nurkic is out, Zach Collins is out, and I know Zach Collins isn't a big name player, but he was an important player to that team. When you have Hassan
Yeah,
Whiteside starting,
he was solid off the bench.
when you have Hassan Whiteside starting, there's no hope because he'd be a good bench player, but when me and Ryan we went to the Trailblazers versus Pacers game, and we were able to call exactly what he would do before he would do it. If he had 2 points and 1 rebound, he's going to get this next rebound, which is exactly what he did, right? Once he gets his specific stats that he's looking for, he basically takes himself out of the game. So if he was coming off the bench, maybe, and you could have him come off the bench and give you your 15 and 15, and then sub Yusuf Nurkic back in, the Blazers would be in a much better spot. And it doesn't help. Melo obviously is having a good season, but I wouldn't want him as my starting player either. Trevor Ariza was getting serious minutes.
Whoa.
This team
You're
is a
saying you
mess.
don't want a 34-year-old Carmelo Anthony who hasn't played in almost 2 years as one of your starting forwards?
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. But
Weird.
Trevor Ariza's getting serious minutes, and that's not a recipe for success. He had didn't he have a 2 weeks straight where he was putting up points, he was 55 or 60 points per game, and the team was still losing. That's not that's out of his control at that point, and he's been having a few injuries too. But when I look at the Blazers record, I can't put that on Damian Lillard because he's doing the team is just so bad.
I do want to say that I misspoke because he is doing the absolute most he possibly can. What I meant to say is that when there are 3 teams with good point guards that are also way ahead in the standings from that team, I can't really put one of the players that's not in the playoffs above a player that's putting up similar numbers and has similar value to their team that is in the playoffs. That's what I meant to say, which is still maybe wrong. I recognize that, but I do want to clear the air there because I misspoke for sure. So your number 2 was Dame. My number 2 is Luka. I had Luka Doncic at number 1 for a little bit, and then I was like, wait a second, his team is the 7 seed. Luka Doncic. Can you still hear me, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay. Luka Doncic is absurd. He's crazy. He's a big part of the NBA's future. He's a big part of Dallas's future, and he's putting up he's close to averaging an efficient triple-double. He is putting up 29 points, 9 rebounds, 9 assists, which is nothing to sneeze at. His team's the 7 seed, which is what makes me not able to put him number 1. But he also he's got targets to pass to that are stepping up, but he is clearly the best player on that team. He's also been getting a decent amount of all-star buzz this year. He was getting more in, November and December because his team was higher, but I still think that he will finish probably top 5 or 6 in MVP voting, I would guess.
Mm-hmm.
I would definitely have him finish top 5 there. But his team's good. His team is also. Let me just look up the Western Conference standings real quick because I think they are separated from the 4 seed by 3 games.
Yeah. The top 7,
which I
close.
can't really. Yeah, which I can't really hold. I can hold it against him a little bit, which is why I don't have him at number 1. But I also wouldn't have him at number 1 if he was the 4 seed because of just the other one ahead of him is so much better.
Yeah.
The
only reason I didn't have Luka maybe as high, another thing was his and obviously he's going to improve at this as he continues to grow, but his efficiency, it's not there yet. Because look at I just pulled up his shooting.
Definitely not his 3-point efficiency.
He's shooting
32%
from the 3, and he's shooting 75% from the free throw line. That's not great.
Yeah, but his 45% from the field for a player who's taking 20 shots a game. I can't
Yeah.
ask for anything better
And
than that.
he's
That's why I
also
say he's averaging
also
close to an official triple.
he's also putting up like 4 turnovers a game, which isn't great. And obviously, as he
Yeah.
continues to like get more experience, that number's gonna go down. But it's hard to overlook.
He's also good, and he's also one of the better big point guards in transition. He's averaging a steal a game too, which can't be overlooked. I know that I haven't really talked a ton about like defensive numbers besides just saying that like a player's good at defense, but he is a good defender. Like
Yeah.
a steal a game is nothing to sneeze at, especially for a bigger guy. Like he's what 6'7", 6'9" ish, and that is somewhere in that range. His team is separated from the 4 seed by 2.5 games, and the 3 seed by 3.5 games. So there's definitely room for them to improve next year, but I would not be surprised if they maybe overtake even Denver in the seeding next year because he's only going to improve from here.
Yeah. And with Kristaps getting a full offseason to get healthy,
Yeah.
it'll be good.
But again, he's mainly number 2 because of he was in the MVP conversation for a while. He still has a seat at the table. I wouldn't say that he's in probably the tier 3, 2 or 3 for people I would consider for MVP.
Yeah.
But he's in there. So number 1, you wanna go first? We have the same one.
It's
LeBron.
It's
LeBron.
He's doing the same LeBron things. He's just listed as a point guard this season,
which is
I think it's a pretty obvious decision.
Yeah, it's. I hate saying that LeBron's a point guard because I think even for the All-Star game, he was voted in as a forward.
Yeah.
Like he's doing the same thing that he's been doing for a decade, but he's listed as a point guard.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like so I have trouble saying he's a point guard, but if he's listed as a point guard, he's listed as a point guard, and he's the best player on this list.
Yeah.
By far, bar none.
Mm-hmm.
The reason that I know that I said earlier you might be confused because I said that I had Luka above him. I had Luka above him mostly because it was like the very first rough draft of my list. But I also think that Luka is this is wrong, but my reasoning was that I think that Luka is better at running like the Mavericks offense than LeBron is at running the Lakers offense, which is wrong. That's false.
LeBron is leading the league in assists.
It's you can't argue with it. LeBron is going to finish top 3, probably top 2 in MVP voting, and he won't be 1 because Giannis is going to be 1.
Should be 1 at least.
But LeBron will finish top 2 or 3 in MVP voting, which I think he's basically done every single time he hasn't won MVP.
Yeah.
And besides his first like 2 years maybe. But it's fucking LeBron. It's the best player that I've ever watched. Period. Like I have never, I wasn't alive to see Michael Jordan, and we don't talk about the GOAT, but it's LeBron. It's fucking LeBron, dude. Like if he is whatever position he chooses to play, he is automatically the best player at that position.
Yeah.
Like
the reason is because again, even though he's listed as a point guard, he's just doing the same stuff. I just listed as a point guard. So it's
he's still putting up absurd assist numbers. LeBron, is he averaging a double-double, by the way?
Yes, because he's averaging 11 assists.
Fuck. So I was like basically right on that because I said that his scoring would take a dip, but his assists would go up, and it kind of has done that.
Yeah. The crazy thing too is when you look at
LA
is
also the 1 seed and has the second best record in the NBA, which should not be overlooked.
Yeah. When you look at the Lakers, it's kind of just a better version of the Mavericks because tall point guard like Luka and LeBron, they're both good at running their offense, but obviously LeBron's better. Anthony Davis and Kristaps kind of are similar. Kristaps, I guess, is a better outside shooter, but in the sense of tall big man that doesn't like to run center, Yeah.
So we will.
This episode's
if you
really
want to.
long.
Yeah, it is long. So we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up here, but maybe we can like put the screenshots of our list on Twitter or something. I don't know. We can do something like that if anybody wants that. But
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Hit the like and subscribe.
Wait, what's up?
Hit the like and subscribe.
Oh,
if you like watching.
Your thing cut out for me, so yeah.
Oh yeah. All right.
So yeah,
Okay,
like,
I got
comment,
shit to
subscribe
do,
if
so we
you
gotta go.
yeah. See you guys.
All right. Bye, guys.